Welcome to a new week of the PHLY Sixers podcast, where things as far as the Philadelphia 76ers will go all offseason until we actually get to the draft. Oh, there's going to be a lot of things just popping up out of nowhere as far as information and the Sixers being attached to it. So, welcome to a new week of that, 3 p.m. Of course, all week long right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast, alongside Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck. I'm Devon Givens, Bree, the president of basketball operations, as always with us producing the show. And it's great to start off with you in the chat right away as we hang out with you. Some news out there with the Sixers being attached to some veteran names that could be of interest to you as a Sixer fan, conversationally for us here on the show. And we'll get to our Mailbag Monday questions a little bit later after we get into some of these names that are thrown out there, as well as some draft conversation in general with the players that are going through pro days with their management teams, some latest of what the players look like as the combine came to an end, and all of the discourse going around with so many of these players that the Sixers may have interest or should have interest in at pick number 3. And Kyle, as we start off, man, I mean, just looking at the names that were out there, Jonathan Givony and Jeremy Woo of ESPN putting together their mock draft post-combine. And as they got to the Sixers and laying out things of what Dallas is going to do with Cooper Flagg, if San Antonio keeps the pick at 2, Dylan Harper is a clear-cut choice for them. But at 3, while he had Ace Bailey, he had a nice nugget in there that Derek sent to us earlier to start the day off of, well, they could be shopping this pick too. And Kevin Durant, Lauri Markkanen are the type of names that are being at least thrown out there as a potential player to come back for that number 3 overall pick. Your initial thoughts on that and what that might look like. And also on the Lauri Markkanen thing, we talked so much about him last offseason where it was a big conversation piece. How do you feel versus last year to where we are today?
I will say,
in the conversation?
The one thing that saved us was that he was trade ineligible after signing that extension. Otherwise, we would have been talking about him all season long.
A whole year long. So the other part of it, Devon, before we get to that is Jonathan and Jeremy are very plugged in on the draft. They're 2 of the top draft guys out there, obviously. It's part of why they're at ESPN. They took Ace Bailey for the Sixers at 3.
Yes.
But the headline of the story and the bulk of what they wrote about the Sixers was basically, this is where the draft starts, right? It's sort of what we've been talking about since they ended up at number 3, that there are a lot of options in play, whether it's just drafting Ace Bailey, which there's a big contingent for, drafting VJ Edgecombe, but there's also names like Trey Johnson, Malawach, Knipple being thrown in there. And so then the natural next thing you say, okay, let's say they're not enamored with any of these guys. Let's say they're willing to trade back. Who's out there? Who are the guys that are gettable without selling the farm, so to speak, using every single pick you need to trade for a Giannis Antetokounmpo, who we talked about. And so Durant and Markkanen come up as, I wouldn't quite say natural fits, but they are 2 obvious names that are out there. My stance on these 2 guys, unless it is a straight salary swap for Durant, I'm not in the Kevin Durant business. And I will sit here and say he's one of the greatest basketball players ever. He is certainly much better than Paul George is still. Like, if you just go through the numbers that he's put up the last few years, they are not comparable as players. I just think when you're talking about a 37-year-old forward, I am not paying a premium to bring that guy into a situation where it's relying on him staying healthy and Joel Embiid staying healthy to have any value for this deal.
But in your math of whether or not you would support that, have you factored in that there is a non-zero chance he would be in the YouTube chat debating us at some point?
I don't know if he's a YouTube chat guy. I think he would be in our Twitter mentions, and I think that would be a...
just throwing it out there.
I don't know if it's a fun situation to be in so much as honestly, an interesting or entertaining one.
He's not just going to dunk on you. Like, he will have a back and forth. It would be fun.
I think the impression I've gotten from afar of Kevin Durant is that the people who have covered him say very thoughtful guy and how he will discuss the game. You would engage him on like real basketball terms. He is a true like student of the game, nerd for all the basketball stuff, and would be great for us from a coverage perspective of the media side, right? Just getting to talk to these guys about this stuff. But I am not giving up extra assets, whether it's a pick this year, whether it's Jared McCain, whether it's future first round picks, to just make an even deeper bet on this version of the team and essentially on Joel Embiid, right? Like, I'm just not in a position where I want to do that. And I will say, while I'm a little warmer on the idea of trading for Markkanen, I think because of where Joel Embiid is at, he's a less appealing option to me now than he would have been if you tried to trade for him a year ago. Because I think part of the reason you would have been interested in Markkanen last summer and for the years moving forward is that he is a clean fit in the front court next to Joel Embiid. Joel, or at least like peak Embiid, rounds out some of his weaknesses, right? Markkanen's not a great defender. You have the last line of defense there. Joel's an interior player. Markkanen is an exterior, outside shooting threat on the other end, someone who is a shooting weapon, someone you use off the ball, doesn't need the ball in his hands a whole lot. Big enough to help you on the glass, although numbers there last season were pretty poor, and we'll have to get into why we think that happened. And so my position on Markkanen is, will I be willing to trade for him? I am not using the number 3 pick in this draft. I just, if I trade for Markkanen, I'm willing to trade some other stuff. You can talk to me about some young players. We can talk about future first round picks and whether it's, Clippers swap, Clippers 2028, maybe some kind of protected version of a future pick, and you trade that along with PG and Markkanen comes back. Like, there are versions of that kind of deal I'm willing to make. I in no way, shape, or form am I paying a big premium and moving number 3. Now, would you slide back 2 slots for that? I'd consider it, but I think Utah would be asking quite a bit because he's one of their only tangible pieces of present day value. And we know how Danny Ainge operates, right? He's someone that tries to hold you over a barrel and extract every last pick and young player you can get and then doesn't make a trade. So if you got to overpay for him, I'm out.
Yeah. So I do want to point out, because INS basically started this chat with, he can't with this GM, and then he asked whether or not he was lucid. Funny, but it is important, I think, to look at what Gavoni wrote, which basically started off with, some teams expect the Sixers to be active in trade conversations.
Yes.
He wasn't reporting that there were trade conversations, that he was dangling the pick, or that he was pursuing Markkanen. It is an expectation from rival executives based on Daryl Morey's track record.
And they wouldn't be doing their jobs if they weren't at least listening to other
Of course.
conversations.
So, like, it's, I don't want people to overreact, because certainly with Daryl Morey's recent track record, people are frustrated, and because of that, they're going to use a lot against him. It doesn't mean we shouldn't respond to it, because quite frankly, the Sixers are very good at, being quiet and not leaking anything at this time of the year. So you are forced to react to, things that you're hearing outside of the Sixers and speculation that you're hearing outside of Philadelphia. It's sort of the way that it is, but you don't need to throw them out right now. In terms of PG or Durant and Markkanen, it does all come back to Joel Embiid. Like, if this was a situation where, well, first of all, if Joel Embiid wasn't healthy, you don't win, so few games, 24 games, that you're in a spot to draft number 3 overall. But if this was like let's say he broke his hand on his non-shooting hand or something like that, something where you go, all right, well, he's going to come back and be Joel Embiid.
Yes.
You would look at this 3rd pick as an opportunity to go out there and really build a championship contender, like a true, not just a squint championship contender, but like, oh, Joel Embiid could be a second option and really thrive in a role that he's never had an opportunity to thrive in before. You would use this as a huge, this would just be a gift. It would be an absolute gift, and you'd understand if Daryl, even if you disagreed with it and you wanted Daryl to try to take someone who could impact the franchise for a decade, you would understand if he was using that to try to really boost your championship odds. But you can't rely on Joel Embiid. It would be ridiculous to rely on Joel Embiid. So I'm with Kyle. Unless it's like a straight swap, there might be a non-Clippers draft pick that you throw in there or something. But like, it wouldn't be. You're not going to. You have really 2 prime assets in 3 if you want to include McCain. McCain, the 3rd pick, and that Clippers unprotected pick. You can't push those in for Joel Embiid. You just can't do it right now.
And because you tried it last summer, and it kind of backfired on you.
Kind of backfired.
Yeah, kind of backfired on you.
Just a little bit. Small backfire.
So, yeah, right. Small backfire. But it's a few things. Number one, you look at what Daryl Morey said, at least what he said, which was this goes against everything that they talked about with the 25 and under as far as getting younger and how things did not work since it backfired just a little bit last season, that they didn't have enough people to hold up while those guys were out. If things happened where Joel Embiid got injured, the unexpected injury for Paul George, that you still had somebody to run with Maxey to hold up things, keep your head above water in the event that, like we saw the season before when Joel went down, they still had just enough to hold up to keep them. They weren't winning a lot, but they were still there because of what they did, the work that they did early on. And when they got there, Joel came back at the end of the year. They won 8 straight going into the playoffs. You felt kind of okay about them going against the New York Knicks in that first round. Took them to 6. He had a 50-point game. Maxey did what Maxey did. That wasn't the case this year. It just simply wasn't going to be. So with this, now Quentin Grimes might have leveled up like he did, but it wouldn't have done anything for you as far as a real possibility of making a run in the Eastern Conference playoffs. So again, it just goes against what he said about having 25 and younger, having some athleticism, having players that are right there with the Kyle Neubeck height test, like 6'5" and up, to go along with some of these players here on the roster. And while Kevin Durant and Lauri Markkanen fit that, it's just the age part that goes once again against what he said. And number 2, as the resident, I love Kevin Durant. I will debate Kyle, as we've been saying. We're gonna do this in the offseason when things get a little
talk
down.
about bus drivers.
Oh man, hey, bus driving and all. Even Kevin Durant, at this particular stage, I wouldn't make that deal. He has 1 year left on his contract. You have no idea, because he has been a flaky when it comes to his situations of where he may want out. And you're making a deal like that, and he's not going to be back after one season potentially. I cannot bank the future, the present, and then the future on that with Kevin Durant.
But to that point, it's why the 1 year on the contract, it's why if they were just like, well, we're going to lose them and no market really develops, if Phoenix was like, hey, their brain trust over there, a little shaky, we'll say.
Yeah.
If they said, we'll take Paul George and several years on the contract and hope that he bounces back, if you somehow convince them to do that, listen, if we're going to make fake trades for Dallas based on Nico Harrison doing stuff that's insane, you do have to look at Phoenix and say, what the hell are they doing over there? And why should we treat them as a rational actor? Just say, hey, you could get Paul George for a few years before you lose Kevin Durant for nothing in free agency next summer. If you can somehow convince them of that, sure. The straight contract swap, give me Kevin Durant. I am paying nothing more than that. Maybe if you're saying, I'll throw in some second round picks or things that are just like low value assets, relatively speaking. No first, no McCain, certainly no Maxey. Like that wouldn't even make sense financially, but nothing that's of real value.
Definitely not the number 3 pick is what I was getting at.
No chance.
Not doing that. He is not involved in that pick at all, in that trade at all, for them to bring him into town. So no, I can't do it. As much as I love him, unless it's a straight up for Paul George, I'm not doing that. It's just not happening.
It would be fun though if you could.
Oh, absolutely! Kevin Durant. Even if I'm a little lower on him than Devon is, Kevin Durant is still an incredible basketball player.
And we talk about guys caring. He still cares about playing basketball,
100%.
Getting out there, and all the possibility is. First of all, we saw a semblance of it, not only in the All-Star games, but the real competition of the Olympics, where we saw Joel Embiid with Kevin Durant and what that looks like and how that would play out.
What it looks like next to any stars, where like. He comes back off an injury.
KD,
and he's on a team with LeBron and Steph. And Kevin Durant comes in that game. It's like, oh boy,
give him the
ball. Give that guy the ball.
Yep, absolutely. He's coming off the bench. Oh, this is not working. They went on a 7-0 run to start the game. Get him in the game, Steve Kerr. That would be tremendous, Derek, to have that fun with Kevin Durant, Tyrese Maxey. Joel misses a week. You got those two guys just running the show, man. Jared McCain spotting up because he's a willing passer that will look for guys behind the three-point line. That would be some good times.
It would be great. Unfortunately, it would be 1 year, and everyone would get injured, and we'd be back here next year.
He just ruined it for us.
Thanks a lot, Derek. We're having fun over here.
Just ruined it for us. So that was the Kevin Durant portion. We got to talk about the Lauri Markkanen piece a little bit more on the other side as well, because again, it's totally different from where we were a season ago, where we were like, all in, go get him right now. and let's rock and roll, make a run next season. 4 years on his deal.
Time changes a lot, buddy.
One calendar basketball season changes a whole bunch. We'll talk about Lauri Markkanen and it a little bit more on the other side as we hang out with you. Mailbag questions a little bit later. We got a lot to get to on this Monday. We start a new week. New rumors out there. We're going to have rumors every week, I'm sure, up until the draft starts.
Every other day at this point.
Every other day, right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast.
All right, guys, just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage. And Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. We've all heard of those big box stores, and they might have a flooring department. But the person helping you with flooring may have been doing sinks yesterday and could be stocking light bulbs tomorrow. Empire Today lives and breathes flooring, and they will be with you every step of the way. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home. You pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space, so you can see how it looks with your furniture and in your house. You get precise measurements taken and have your questions answered so there are no surprises. With Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, and inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code PHLY. You heard that right, a $350 discount with code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empirettoday.com/PHLY for full details.
And I need to tell you.
I feel so left out right now.
I'll send it to you.
I need to tell you about TrueMark Financial. You got to pay for those things, even though you get the great discount that Derek was talking about. And they take care of you. You got to make sure that your financial situation is right. And for the month of May, right, we're looking at things with your finances and working from home. You like doing that. It's time to stop calling plays from your couch with a TrueMark Financial. It's time to start calling plays from your couch with a TrueMark Financial HELOC Select. You can tap into your home's equity and finally upgrade that home office, build out a better space, or just finish the projects you've been putting off. Maybe you wanted to get the basement done. You want to get the deck refinished as the start of the summer is here, and you can get that done pretty quickly. Well, with HELOC Select, you get a great low rate, flexible access to pull the funds all at once or only when you need them. Lower rates than most personal loans and no penalties if you pay it off early. Visit TrueMark.com/PHLY to apply and turn your work from home game into a winning play. Terms and conditions apply. Visit TrueMark.com/HELOC for details. Federally insured by the NCUA, Equal Opportunity Lender, NMLS 404938.
All right, for those of you on the YouTube side who are watching me show Devon something that made him laugh that I then sent to Derek, there was a report from Chris Haynes who said, in Big Three news, Michael Beasley, you guys remember Michael Beasley, is considering requesting a trade from his Big Three team because the franchise that he plays for, the Miami 305, drafted Lance Stevenson. And so I saw that and I was like, man, what a through the looking glass moment.
I originally misread that. And I'm like, there's no way he's still, have I slept through that? He's not in the league anymore.
So then the first reply, which is what I was really laughing at, was a guy who tweeted at Chris Haynes. I'm a fan of Chris Haynes's, so this is with all due respect to him. This guy said, all right, dog, this is your last straw. I'm turning off notifications for you. And it really tickled my heart. It was
never changed, Michael Beasley. Never changed, man.
Michael Beasley requesting a trade in the Big Three league. Like, what is the world coming to, man?
Never changed, man. Absolutely never changed. Michael Beasley is the best. I do want to say, though, as we talk about these mock drafts and so much going on, make sure you do go and check out at allphly.com our NBA draft guide. It's the Die Hard Draft Guide, All City Network Draft Guide, with Derek Bodner, Will Gottlieb from CHGO. And with that, you get so much great information. If you feel like the Sixers should keep the third overall pick, or if you feel like they should trade down, you need to be up on your prospects. Maybe you didn't have time during the college basketball seasons to really get into the players that we are talking about, and you want to jump on it quickly here and get some more idea of what these players are all about, the strengths, the weaknesses, things that, how they would fit with the Sixers in particular. Make sure you go sign up to become a diehard member at allphly.com, the Die Hard Draft Guide with Derek Bodner and Will Gottlieb from CHGO.
We'll be adding that Michael Beasley scouting report later.
Please
tonight.
do. And Lance Stevenson
loves to shoot. There's the scouting report.
How you gonna get mad? Because
Michael Beasley and Lance Stevenson on the same team is a really offensive concept, honestly.
It's a good time for the big three, not for an NBA team, for the big three. All right, Derek, the Lauri Markkanen piece again. Last summer, he was a big topic of conversation, not just for us, but we talked about him a lot because the Sixer fans were really interested in him at the age of 28, going into this season, getting the extension and all, and teaming him up with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey to make a run for the next, let's say, 2-3 years. And while Joel Embiid still has some game left in him and his knees are cooperating, his legs are cooperating. Now he's starting off this 4-year contract, man, and this season with the Jazz, not as much as we thought it would be.
No, it's amazing how quickly, he went from like a 25-year-old making his first All-Star game, most improved player, underpaid on his contract, to like, I'm not sure he's worth that contract right now. Yeah. And that comes at you so quickly. He has, like you mentioned, his new extension kicks in next year, pays him upwards of it starts at $46 million and goes through $53 million per year. This is a big contract. And he just had a really mediocre year. He's had a lot of back issues over the last 2 years. He's had some knee issues. He's been out of the lineup a lot. And he shot, 35% from three? I think his true shooting took like a 7% hit. He didn't rebound the ball well. Third year
He didn't really do
Utah.
much of anything well,
He didn't do much of anything well in third year in Utah. And
he scored on volume, and that's kind of it.
And so it's, to Kyle's point, if you were confident in Joel Embiid, first of all, Markkanen's probably not your first option anyway, because you might go for someone who's a little more proven, a little higher impact, like Kevin Durant, even if that timeline is a lot shorter. But a lot of the draw was he could play next to Embiid when Embiid's on the floor. He could slide over and play a pick and pop game with Tyrese Maxey when Embiid's on the bench. But that only really matters if you're sitting here and saying, all right, I think we can win a title right now. It is a little different because Markkanen is 27. He'll be 28 later this week. So he's 9 years younger than Kevin Durant. That's a huge difference.
Material difference.
But if we were talking, like, to Kyle's point, like Paul George and like the Clippers pick, we can have that conversation. It's the third pick where the sticking point really is, because he would clearly make the team better. He would be able to play a little bit with Joel Embiid, without Joel Embiid, so he helps you hedge sort of like some of that injury risk a little bit. If Embiid's not healthy for the playoffs, it doesn't matter. You're not winning a title with, Maxey, Markkanen, and McCain and a bunch of role players. But you have to be willing to give up that third pick. I just can't do it. And we can sit here. All right, so if the third pick and Paul George for Markkanen is too much for the Sixers, well, but then, the third pick and Paul George for Markkanen in the fifth pick, that makes no sense for
why is
Jazz.
Utah doing that? Because
they're not giving that up to move two spots.
And the other part is, I don't think Paul George wants to play in Utah.
I would very fair concern.
I would guess he is not going to be Provo P.
So it's got to be it's got to be a multi-team trade, which is fine. Daryl can get creative, but I just look at the two teams. I don't really see any way to bridge that gap in terms of what they're looking for.
Yeah, and I would say you trade for Markkanen over Durant because you say, all right, he's got a longer runway. If things fall apart for our short-term contention odds, there is still a world where in 4 years, 5 years, if you're Daryl Morey or whoever would be running the team at that point, you still have an opportunity to either get value out of Markkanen on the floor or trade him, because the number is big for what his production is. But as the cap goes up every year, it's a smaller percentage of the cap. And so there are avenues that you can use to trade him, or there'll be more options in a couple of years. My concern would be if Joel is treat Joel as if he's a non-entity or closer to that than you want him to be moving forward. If the core is Markkanen, Maxey, McCain, you don't have a plus defender between the three of them. And Markkanen does not help bridge that gap where you say, okay, Maxey and McCain have some pretty significant offensive strengths. We think we can probably score a lot of points. We'll have creation. We'll have shooting. And Markkanen helps accentuate that, right, by adding shooting. But he is not helping round out your roster. He is not a guy that's like, oh, he's going to be a stopper, right? He's going to be a reliable weak side rim protector. He's not a very good rebounder. And so the things that are already the problems with trying to build out a team with Maxey and McCain are even bigger problems with Markkanen being like the third guy in that group. So does he give you real championship equity in the short term? Probably not. In the long term, if Joel never gets better, are you making it a team with real upside and championship equity? I still think the answer is no. You're still moves and trades and roster fitting away from putting together like a seriously dangerous team. So I just think the last year and the way that Joel, like optimism in Joel has sunk during that time, makes me much less willing to give up anything of consequence just to get Markkanen specifically.
His numbers are down across the board from his All-Star season. But I do want to ask that how much do you believe it was what Utah was doing specifically? Because we saw where they ran into a lot of, they weren't joking when they were trying to, you saw they were resting guys. And they were resting.
Oh, they were absolutely shameless.
And it wasn't even close. He played 47 games this season, where his first year was 66, 55 a year ago, 47 this year. It was very clear very early with what they were trying to do. And they were sitting all of them together, or somebody was getting a week off here. Another player was getting a week off here. Lauri Markkanen would miss 2 during the week. And we all know that there are 3 to 4 games being played each week for an NBA team. How much of it, though, was the Utah Jazz and their plan of what they were doing and asking him, hey, if he's out there, you got a chance to win. And in these close games, at least, I mean. And that was just going to mess up their opportunity. So I just ask that how much of that was really him, and also just the lack of time that he spent on the floor, because he wasn't out there a lot.
No, he wasn't out there a lot. And it's a fair question. And I guess my answer would be, I don't know. And if my answer is, I don't know, I'm not giving up the 3rd pick. Like, you have to have certainty that the situation
100%.
is a problem.
Right.
He played 6 games after the All-Star break.
Yeah.
And 4 of them were in a bunch in the middle of March.
That might have been after they got fined when they rested all those guys.
Yeah, so they lost to the Sixers, lost to the Celtics, and I know that was the point where there was a lot of discussion. He played 4 games in a row and then sat the rest of the year after that. Like, he just didn't play a lot, number one. And the roster situation is a disaster. But Derek's absolutely right. If you are concerned so much about, was it a product of situation, or is this just real decline for Markkanen? That's not the player that you push in a ton of chips for, right? You want a guy who, regardless of context, regardless of, is at least able to hit a reasonable level of consistent production, right? I'm not asking Markkanen to take Isaiah Collier and, Walker Kessler and
whoa. No besmirching Walker Kessler
and
not in this
studio.
Whoever. I'm not asking him to take them to a winning record. Like, as far as that goes, he just had no shot to be on a winning team this year. In terms of his own numbers and his own production, he had a disappointing year shooting the ball, rebounding the ball, whatever. So disappointing year for him no matter what. Maybe you could convince me to buy low on him. I am not paying a premium for him.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Figured I'd ask. I got to flip it.
If it was like PG and like the Clippers pick, all right, I can talk myself into that. Because I think there's real reason to believe that the Clippers pick might not be, look, you'd be nervous about it because I'm protected, but like that might end up being a teens pick. Like, it might not end up being a prime asset.
It ain't a top 3 pick.
It's right. Especially when
Before we pivot to the...
Although in this lottery system, who knows? If you miss the playoffs, anybody can win the lottery these days.
The play-in is a new number 1 pick nowadays.
By the way, did you see I don't know whose show it was on. Did you see Shaq talk about
the Orlando thing?
Yeah. Did you see this clip, Derek?
No.
Shaq went on a show and was talking about, what was he drafted? 91, 92?
92.
He met David Stern, he said, a little bit before the lottery, like in March, April, by his description. And David Stern asked what type of market he would prefer to play in, cold weather or warm weather. Shaq says warm weather. And then he said, oh, weird. Orlando won the lottery.
Not a good time to be saying that when Dallas wins the number 1 overall pick.
I'm not saying Shaq's the one who told the story. So just...
No, I'm saying Shaq. Not a good time to be saying that out loud. No, not in front of a camera. It's not a good time, man. Not a good time at all.
Fueling the conspiracy theories.
Yes,
That's
he
all I'll
is.
say on that.
Yes, he is. So add that one to the Patrick Ewing and all these other, Anthony Davis, LeBron
Nico
James.
Harrison special that just happens.
Add that one to the list. Before we take a break and get to the mailbag questions, is there anybody, veteran-wise, outside of Giannis, and excluding these two that we just talked about, that you would consider a possible trading of the number 3? We know when we swap the New Orleans picks, Herb Jones get to 7, New Orleans moves up to 3 because they've identified somebody.
But I think that's a framework that I would be interested in, like someone who can help you now and someone who has a top 7-ish pick. I think that's the framework you got.
Yeah, but in this case with Phoenix and Utah, yes, if you swap
but you just
with
don't
5.
expect them to include 5, so that's
Right.
why we're not.
That's what I'm saying. So is there anybody that you would just simply be interested in?
Well,
I know I'm throwing this at
You
you.
took the one that I was going to use.
What, the Giannis one?
No, the Herb Jones and
No, yeah. I think
that was
that's the
different.
one is the number 7 and Herb.
But
or
his name
if
is
you
not
could
as
get
big
even-
as theirs, is what I'm saying. Something as big as that, where at least you're talking all-star players because Herb Jones is not an all-star. I'm just talking all-star level player that you would realistically consider it.
Where's Hedva? Hedva is screaming Tari Eason somewhere right now.
And not an all-star.
Nah, that doesn't clear the bar for me of like.
I see a lot of Tari Eason in the chat here.
I really like Tari
Hedfa,
Eason, but it's
Jada
also
Jones.
I'm just saying she's brought up a lot.
that's
why I
a
bring it.
pretty big drop in draft slot. If that's what you're like,
That's
it's
the 10,
to the
right?
point where it's
Or 10?
another tier of prospect to me.
Yes.
10 is farther than I would want to drop.
Yeah. I think 3 to 8, you could talk me into those players are kind of closely bunched. Once you get past 8, there's it's a little dicey.
But no superstar, no all-star, no superstar, nothing.
if you can get me an all-star and an 8th pick, sure, but you're not going to get
No,
that.
I mean,
so-
you got to keep the pick out of it.
No, I need a top 8 pick this year.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Top 8 pick. So that's why I'm more in on Trey Murphy's a lot harder because what's his deal? 20 I want to say it's like 23 to 25 million a year. And that's a really difficult number for the Sixers to get to without it turning into some big sprawling trade. Herb is the one because he's on a much smaller number. So it's
All right. SB Cole has one. I'll take out the Herb Jones part, but he says Devin Booker just because of, to your point of if you fleece Phoenix because they are on this whole mess up and they get rid of Kevin Durant, they start over. Potentially, if Devin Booker was available, would you give up the number 3 pick for Devin Booker?
Again, but to what end is
I don't
guess
know. I don't know. But is that a starting point because of the player?
I don't see a guy out like Giannis really to me is the only one.
Okay.
Because and even then, that's like if you get Giannis and Joel is still here, there are very real fit concerns there, right? Like Joel can
But
shoot.
you can win a lot of basketball
Joel
games.
can shoot, but can Joel shoot enough where your other guy who's basically a non-entity as a shooter has enough spit? Like that's a lot different. And is Joel even healthy in the first place, right? Devin Booker would come here, and Devin Booker is awesome, but Devin Booker coming here and playing with Maxey or whoever, you still have a lot of roster issues there. You're over-indexed on backcourt talent, and because I'm assuming Paul George is going out in that trade, or you're trying to make that. You have no wings, and you have no path to getting any wings on that team. You're just going to get killed by any team that. I guess not Boston next year because they're going to be having a downturn year, but any team with real size and athleticism on the wing just kills you.
Well, I think your pathway to getting more wings is trading Maxey. I don't think you can have Maxey, McCain, Booker.
But that's what I mean. If you trade for Booker, that's a trade it's a trade that begets another trade. Sure. I don't think it's like you bring Booker in and that solves anything. You're completely reshaping the roster. And we could sit here and make an argument for that, but if you're just saying you want to make one trade to try to turn this team from what they are into contender, that's not it. And I really like Devin Booker.
All right, you got it. All right, appreciate it, everybody, for throwing some there in the chat as well. Marshall Lynn says number 3 for Herb Jones is Nico level malpractice. It's the swapping of 3 and 7.
3 and 7.
And swapping, you still get 7 and Herb Jones, and that would be the deal, Martian, for the Sixers. All right, we come back. We get into our mailbag questions on a Mailbag Monday. We got hijacked by Jonathan Gavoni and Jeremy Wu with their reporting, of course, from the Combine. And now we get to our mailbag questions on a Monday here on the PHLY Sixers podcast.
Gotta clear my throat, guys, because this is the big one. It's the Memorial Day sale at Ashley, South Jersey and Philadelphia. Save $100 off of every $1,000 you spend, plus amazing savings on beautiful outdoor furniture, 60-month special financing, all your furniture delivered locally, free of charge, and with your qualifying purchase, get a free gift. Guys, I've been saying it a lot, but you know the warm weather's coming. It's a beautiful day out there today. It was beautiful all weekend, basically. You want some nice outdoor furniture, whether it's you and your loved ones, you and your friends, just you by yourself. Maybe it's like me sitting in my backyard with my dog Louie hanging out, getting a little sun. Get that outdoor furniture now while the Memorial Day sale at Ashley's going on. Plus, save on top brand mattresses, get free local delivery, setup, and removal at Ashley, South Jersey, and Philadelphia. Financing with approved credit, minimum purchase required. Some exclusions may apply. See store for details. And oh, by the way, you want to look good wherever you're going, right? Maybe you're not hosting people at home. Maybe you're going out on the town, going to some parties, trying to look a little flashy. Golden Nugget Jewelers is where you want to go because for the past 30 years, Golden Nugget Jewelers has operated out of the very same location in the heart of Philadelphia. They have a highly trained staff who's dedicated to providing a personalized shopping experience. That's why their customers come from all over the place. Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Baltimore, even New York City, where they have quite a few jewelers up there as well. If you're coming from New York to Philadelphia to get some jewelry, you know that Golden Nugget has what it takes to make your shopping experience as good as it can be. I've done the engagement ring shopping. I've shopped for wedding bands and jewelry of all sorts in the past. It can be difficult. It can be stressful. Golden Nugget Jewelers minimizes the stress, maximizes your enjoyment, and make sure you get exactly what you need. Get a final cleaning and written appraisal with every engagement ring purchase. Plus, you know you're going to a family-owned and operated business since 1987. So you know you're in good hands. You deserve an expert and the best price at Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. Visit goldennuggetjewelry.com today to learn more.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast on a Monday. And we are a few weeks away from our second annual PHLY Sports Liberty Open Golf Tournament. The golf tournament, second annual, will be at Valley Brook Country Club in Blackwood, New Jersey. Jaws is a great place. I've been there many times, folks, and while I'm not necessarily a golfer, I'm not a golfer. It's not necessary.
I was going to say, nothing necessary about that.
No, it's not, man. It is a great, great place. The food is great. The atmosphere is great. Just showing me around the course. Even the store that Jaws sells all the merchandise and apparel and stuff in the store there, right there on the ground. It's just a great, great place. Very easy to get to as well. The parking is available for you once you pull into Valley Brook Country Club. 18 holes of golf with a cart is what you get when you hang out with us at the second annual tournament. Limited edition PHLY golf tournament gifts and tee prizes. Taste of Philly dinner and post-round ceremony at the pavilion. Also, unlimited draft beer for 2 hours after the round. So while you're standing around talking some hoops with Kyle Neubeck and Derek Bodner, Rich Hoffman, you're talking some basketball.
Rich might be hitting the links.
Rich is
a golfer.
Yeah, he is. You can, after the round with Rich, you get unlimited draft beer for those 2 hours right there.
We will be there.
Contest on the course and a post-round raffle with Philly memorabilia. Diehards, you get $50 off of a foursome, $15 off the individual for the event. All you have to do is use code PHLY Diehard Golf to make sure that you jump in. So if you're not a member already, sign up so you can hang out with us at the second annual Liberty Open, and that will be again on the 14th of June at Valley Brook Country Club in Blackwood, New Jersey. Go sign up.
Devon, this is a real beautiful mind moment that I have many of on the show. When you said not necessarily a golfer and then said, in fact, I'm not a golfer at all, reminded me of, and I can't repeat the exact phrasing for reasons that may be obvious. Do you remember the Dave Chappelle stand-up bit where he goes, ran into R. Kelly, he's mad at me.
Yeah.
And then he just pauses and he goes, ain't no punchline. He's mad. That's what flashed in my head.
Oh, man. I was on a little Dave Chappelle kick over the weekend, too. Just watching.
Killing Him Softly is still
the best.
My favorite stand-up ever.
Number one.
It'll be tough to move me off of that spot.
Yeah. Yeah, he was. Yeah,
The baby selling drugs.
yeah.
I snuck in the club.
Standing
Oh
over
my
there at the
God.
light pole right there outside
Or
at
the
3
white
a.m.
guy talking to police. I didn't know I couldn't do that, officer.
It's great stuff.
Oh
If you haven't
my
seen
God.
Killing Me Softly,
Oh,
we just plugged it.
All timer.
You got to go watch it.
All timer.
And it's classic old Dave Chappelle with the original, like before he, took that break and his voice was different and all that stuff. And still skinny Dave Chappelle standing up there in a jean shirt and some Timbs on the stage. It was a great one. All right, let's get to the mailbag questions here on the Mailbag Monday as we talk a lot of the trade rumors that are out there. I'm sure there will be some draft questions here on the Mailbag Monday. What do we have to start off, Bree? DFC, what do you think is the worst possible, within reason, way the 76ers could use the third overall pick, i.e. not trading it for a future top 59 protected second or something?
I think it's trading out in any form or fashion, right? To not come away with a single exciting young player from the top 10 of this draft would be super disappointing. For fans because the fan base right now is in a place where even if you got an in their prime or like slightly post prime star, there is just a large group of people who are like, look toward the future. I want something that they're building toward rather than just robbing Peter to pay Paul over and over and over again. So I think in terms of the vibe, I think in terms of reading the situation that they're in, I think by far worst outcome is number 3 goes out and the only thing that you're getting back is a veteran name that people know.
Yeah. No, look, there are 5 people, 6 people you could talk me into drafting with this third pick. That's one of the problems that we've had really coming up with big boards and discussing it. The one constant I have had is you have to have a pick in the top 10 and the top 8 in this draft. Anything else I will listen to, but you cannot trade completely out. I agree 100%. It's sort of something I think a sentiment we've had really for the last week ever since they kept the pick.
Yep. I'm in agreement with these guys, so I don't have much to add to that one. You have to come away with something somewhere in the lottery that we discussed. And if it's later on like the Herb Jones hypothetical deal of that type of player and number 7, you can still get a pretty good player at number 7 to go along with Herb Jones. So let's get to the next question here. We appreciate that one. DFC placeholder name editor, please add. Love the name. Has any new reporting or information in the last week changed either what you think the Sixers should do or what they're going to do?
No, in part because like I said earlier, I think any reporting that's going to happen is going to be mostly speculating on what they think Daryl Morey is going to do, whether they think he's going to pursue a trade or what they think a Daryl Morey draft pick looks like. Because the Sixers, the one thing they're pretty good at is not leaking much about their plans at this time of year. So it's all outside noise. And the one thing about what does a Daryl Morey prospect look like, we don't really know because he's almost literally, not almost, don't need the qualification. He's literally never drafted this high in the draft. So what he does with the 16th pick or the 21st pick might not be what he looks for when you're talking about franchise altering talent. So no, the reporting's not going to change it. If anything's changed it for me, it's that I've watched 20 Rutgers games over the last week and I've watched a whole lot of other basketball as well. That's where my order will get constantly reshuffled because I am trying to, just make my opinion a little bit firmer and really come to a full big board ranking. And it's tough. This is a year where doing that is exceptionally tough. So no, there hasn't been anything outside that has changed my opinion on what they will or should do.
No, to emphasize Derek's point, the Anthony Melton trade came out of nowhere.
Yep.
The 2 big draft trades that they made when he arrived here, swapping out Richardson for Curry, trading Horford to OKC. While you could have guessed that something would happen with those guys, there was no reporting on this is going to happen or like, hey, there's even an inkling that those guys were getting moved when they did. This front office has generally kept things under
Marty
wraps.
Brones brings up a good point, though, except for the whiteboard.
Except for the whiteboard. Which
no, that was a mistake. That was not an intentional leak, but yeah.
And thankfully, there wasn't really anything useful on that whiteboard in the first place. Even when they traded for Harden, right? Like that, there was legs to that for what was that, like a week or two before the deadline? But there was a lot of conflicting reporting on that. Yeah. Like Woj was convinced they weren't going to do it. Windy was the one guy who really stuck his neck out and was like, this is either going to happen or is likely to happen. But most of the league was convinced like, it's a lot of bluster and smoke. And so I don't think this time of year you shouldn't really trust a lot of reporting anyway. I would say that there's been nothing that's happened that's really moved anything as far as the Sixers are concerned. One thing, Devon, you and I were talking about before the show, related to Ace, because Ace is a big, I'm trying to say this in a way that makes sense.
He's a lightning rod.
He is that's a good way of putting it. Ace is a lightning rod in many ways. And we have talked a lot about the interviews he gave at the Combine. And I've gotten texts from people. I've called people, texted people, just, hey, what do you think? Hey, what do you think? Not saying, hey, I thought this was crazy, just like sourcing opinions. And generally, I think that is an example of people this time of year are just firming their opinions, right? So the people who are already skeptical of Ace, the people who didn't like Ace for one reason or another, they just use that as another data point of this is why I don't like him, because most of the intel, most of the scouting is done long before we get to this. The only thing that might move the needle a little bit during this period is crazy combine measurements one way or another. Like, I don't know if that works anymore. A lot of the stuff that happens from now until the end of the draft process is just noise. It's just a lot of people shouting back and forth and trying to move people off their positions. The people who believe in Ace saw those interviews at the Combine and said, I love the confidence, right? And you're just going to go through that with every single one of these kids, every single one of their skills. There's just what happens on draft night is not so much the public stuff. It's that the private scouting intel or the private scouting opinions were different from the mocks and the big boards and the top 100s. Like that's all it really is.
Circling back to the Morey piece, to both of your point about him never having this high of a draft pick, things are going to be out there about him and the Sixers of what they could potentially do at number 3 because he has never been in this spot. So, and we said it, the draft starts with them. If everything goes chalk 1 and 2, it starts with the Sixers. So that's where we're going to have to get used to. While rumors are always there, you guys said we'll get 2-3 more this week. We're going to have to get used to just hearing different things about the Sixers.
I mean, we got one in the middle of the show.
There you go.
That was about the big 3, but still, we got a rumor.
Still, by the way, I ain't got no weaknesses, and I got more than 2 strengths, big dog.
I'm telling you, the teams who did not like Ace or just like that, it said everything that his game said all year. And the teams that were in on Ace are now like, look at how confident he is. He's a future star. Like
similar reaction to the draft analysts. You'll never guess which side the 3 of us fell on.
There you go. All right, we got super chats too, but let's get to some more of these mailbag questions here that we have. Appreciate the last one as well. All right, it's a different name. Mailbag. What do you guys like with 35?
I think it's Florida Sixer. It's just
yeah.
Who do you guys like with 35? So we are actually planning on doing an entire show on some late first, early second round guys this week.
Yep.
So not copping out of that now, but we want to do
have names.
More of an in-depth. We should probably discuss what names we want to talk about because they're...
Well, I figured, we'll discuss that off the show.
That's off the show. But yeah, we have a show on that coming this week because that's a subject a lot of people are in on.
Absolutely. But we appreciate it, Florida Sixer, for the question. Great question because we're going to do that this week as well. What's the next one? Bree? Boosie, 49. Ace seems to
Free
dribble
Boozy.
fine. Free Boozy. Ace seems to dribble fine to get a shot off, but he can't or won't use it to get to the rim. Can Drew Hanlon fix that? Can you guys get Drew or one of these pro skill development guys on the pod to talk about skills that can realistically be developed or enhanced since all our options have some needs?
I think a skill guy who's not working with him might be a little bit biased because he will want the skill guy to come and work with him. So yes, he's going to say those skills can be developed. It's a fair point. I think there's a lot of, so like dribbling to his pull up, that's 1 or 2 dribbles and it's not really in traffic. Like he has control of his dribble. That's not really the problem. There's a bunch of problems with his handle, though. And his handle is one of the things that really concerns me. Not really his handle, his ability to get to the rim, which includes his handle, which I don't think right now is all that advanced. It's a high handle. I don't think he changes great direction with it. I think that can be improved. He gets bumped off his spot real easy.
He's still light right now.
If defender throws him in a forearm, he does not react well to it. That is, I think, a big part of why he can't get to the rim. That will get better with age. He's always going to have like a higher center of gravity, so he's going to be prone to that a little bit. Yeah. But that will get better as he physically matures. I think the biggest thing I'm worried about, he just does not have a good first step. And that is much tougher to improve. I think there's a functional limit on how much you can ask him to create off the dribble, because I just don't think he is able to explode out of his moves and get by guys in the way that you would expect somebody who's otherwise reasonably athletic, like in an open floor. Yeah, he can get up and down the floor. He can get, pretty good elevation. He just does not explode out of his moves. I'm really worried about that.
So while Rico Hines is still here and Bobby Jackson's moved on, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Bobby Jackson, now a assistant coach for Doug Christie and the Sacramento Kings. Rico Hines has that great reputation of being able to player develop guys and get them right. So does that do anything for you that he's still here, where he is one of those players, one of those coaches, to the question that before being a coach in the NBA, he still has that reputation of helping and correcting some of the problems that these players come in. Not only the young players that come in, but the players who are already in the league and still need to work on things.
It's great that the Sixers have a guy like that. I would guess most teams nowadays have a pretty good player development staff. But also, like, whoever you take you're going to hope that you have a good player development staff to get the most. Like, if you get Edgecombe, like, there's a lot of things he can improve upon to try to become, like, he can improve upon his handle. He can improve upon, pulling up off the dribble. He can improve upon a whole bunch of things to get him to a higher level. So I think that confidence in your player development staff happens regardless of almost which prospects you, especially when we're talking about narrowing it down to two. But like I said, I have real concerns over his first step and his ability to self-create at a high level. Not only that, but then the decision-making comes in and his ability to read the floor and all of that stuff, which makes it easier to take off driving lanes if you don't, like, there's so many of his shots where they are not, like, they're abandoning players one step away, one pass away, because they know he's not going to make that pass. And that's he can't get to the rim, in part because it is a clogged paint, in part because they know he is not going to make you pay for sending a double team. There's a lot that he has to grow. Some of it, individually, you might be confident, but collectively, the combination of the slow first step, which I think is always going to plague him a little bit, and also he has 3 or 4 or 5 real weaknesses he has to improve upon. I do think you mostly look at him and say, I'm not sure he's going to be a high-level creditor. He might be, but I don't think you can rely on it.
To that, I sent you guys a video, and I'm sure many of you seen it. Paul George, Kevin Durant, Joe Johnson, Gilbert Arenas.
There's one guy's opinion I care about of those 4 people, by the way.
Love Ace Bailey.
And
players love
Kevin
him.
Durant is a guy who I would say I care about his
also, Giannis worked with him and Dylan Harper in the offseason. Individually.
By the way, if you're an Ace guy, do not watch the full workout video.
Yeah.
Don't watch it.
But I'm just saying, if for people who haven't, it's out there.
What I love about these appeal to authorities, when you go, oh, well, he's a great basketball player, so I trust his opinion. Those same people will, like, shit on Michael Jordan's draft record, who will, like, laugh every time Magic Johnson makes a tweet. Like, just because you're a great player doesn't mean you're a great talent evaluator.
Here's what I would say about this specific
talking about his peers
thing.
now.
The big thing for me that I don't have the answer to this, but I'm curious about, is how much of his issues as a driver can be fixed with additional strength, right? Like, because I don't think he's ever going to be, he's not going to be Kevin Durant as a ball handler. Kevin Durant as a ball handler in college was
way better,
way ahead
there.
He's probably not going to be Paul George as a ball handler. Paul George had one of the most dramatic ball handling steps forward of a wing in the last 15, 20 years. And the other part about that is there's a lot of context to his step forward, where he played as like a 6'1" guard for a decent amount of high school, had this huge growth spurt to be 6'8" by the time he's a college sophomore. And so he's relearning his body as he's a college prospect. So expecting that type of jump forward, I don't believe in that. But if you just look at, he's got the size, he's got shooting touch. If he adds a little bit more weight on his frame, probably I wouldn't even say a little bit, a lot of it. If he adds I don't know, 15, 20 pounds of muscle, like good weight. Can he turn some of those plays that are him stopping short or getting pushed off of his drives into I get to the basket or I draw more fouls, like whatever it is? I'm skeptical of that. Do you know he was listed at 210 at Rutgers and measured in like 7 pounds lighter at the combine? Like he actually lost weight based on it. Now, 210 might have been like he was 6'10". Yeah. That might have just been they overlisted him. But you compare that to VJ, who I think was listed at 180, and then he came in at 193. Like a lot of these guys who are making the jump to the league are spending a lot of time trying to put on like that muscle in advance. Yeah. Fears is certainly trying to bulk up.
Like 15 pounds.
It's a little bit different as a guard. I'm not saying it's the same thing.
But to your point of adding the weight versus losing the weight.
So we don't know. Like Kevin Durant has added weight, but he's still skinny, right? Like how much does his functional strength change between now and, age 25, age 28, whatever it is? I don't know. Everybody's different.
Number one thing you learn scouting, don't ever listen to teams with any kind of measurements.
I told you, I was
Ace Bailey was
5'7".
was 200 at the 5'9", Hoop Summit last year. He was 203 this year, so he gained.
So he gained
he was never 210. And VJ similarly, he was 188 at the Hoop Summit last year and 193 this year. Whoever underlisted him on colleges never underlist you, so I don't know.
That's
take
crazy.
that up with Baylor, but he gained a couple pounds too.
Yeah. So for me, it's because everybody talks about the hip bend and the flexibility, and then just like the ball handling craft as the driving stuff. I can't tell you, but how much does additional strength and weight on his frame impact that? Because in theory, at 6'9" in shoes, at least like 6'7.5" without shoes, however you want to do the shoes measurements, he should be able to be a good finisher. He was not on layups in the half court. He was not, especially for a guy that size, but I'm willing to give him some benefit of the doubt because he's got a decent baseline to work from there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But the ball handling thing, I do think it's important to separate. He can get into the shots on one or two dribbles. It's all the downhill stuff that's a big concern.
So polarizing he is right now. So polarizing.
I mean, the last time Kevin Durant gave a positive eval on a Sixers prospect, it obviously worked out greatly, and we reaped the rewards of it.
Oh, wait, it was Markelle Fultz.
The Hezzy Jimbo.
Whew, that was a tough one. All right. Bree, should we get one more in and then all right, let's get to the super chats here and start off there. Shahid checking in with us. Good to see Shahid in there. Durant and Philly would be fun for the content.
Oh, it'd be fantastic.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
Be.
And I would really enjoy getting to pick his brain on basketball stuff. Part of why I like covering Joel. Like Joel will just kind of say whatever he thinks. Kevin Durant is, for whatever issues you have with him, he's an honest guy.
Yes, he is.
It'd be great.
Social media, all of it.
It'd be very fun.
I'm just looking for something to be fun for like a 5-year time window, not just a 1 year.
Yeah. Brian Pumper in here. You don't pick number 3 that often. Not helping bums like Ainge or Marks with Utah and Brooklyn. Of course, Draft my ace of hearts because, sorry, Kyle and Bod, we are allowed to have 6'9" wings.
You're also allowed to have good decision makers on your team, which they have none of. So,
I mean, look, we're with you on the don't trade the third pick, or at least don't trade out of the
draft.
We're
in total agreement on that. And I love that Derek and I are like a conglomerate here because we had very different 2 slots. Is not that different, but Derek ranked ace way below me on a big board, and everyone's just like, you hate him just as much. It's like,
well, and also like ranking him 4th is not hating him. It's like having one other player above consensus.
It's whatever, man. People are just gonna think what they want.
I have serious questions, is what I have.
Just like we have serious questions about VJ and everyone that's not named Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper.
Oh man, good times. Oh boy, Ace! I can't wait, man. Can't wait. You already got sponsorship here on the show anyway. Can't wait. It's overtime, y'all. Little overtime here on the PHLY Sixers show. So make sure you head over to allphly.com to kick it with us for the rest of the time here. And also, we thank you on the fast side, on the TV side, for hanging out with us this afternoon on a Monday. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. for sure. All right, let's get to Riaz saying Evan Mobley for Paul George and the 3rd pick. Would you do that? I think the people here in Cleveland feel that this team is too soft. And then the Twin Towers.
Well,
Allen
you want to
Mobley
get tougher.
is over.
You
Go
know who
get
to
Paul
call.
George. Right.
Podcast P. Famously a foxhole guy.
I mean, yeah, it's
The jokes write themselves.
Yes.
And like, again, I think Paul will have a bounce back year next year, I would suspect, if he stays healthy. But if they're trading Evan Mobley, I don't think Paul George is high on
that's
the
not
list.
the target.
No.
Nah. Thanks,
Giannis,
Riaz, though.
maybe.
Yeah. I
Paul
saw that one
George,
out there.
no.
Yeah. Marty Bones. When is the next time the Sixers get this high? Of
Next
pick?
season.
Well,
Isn't
well,
it
no,
top,
it's top four
top
protected.
four protected?
So
Top
it
four
will not be
protected,
next season.
baby.
more protected? Yeah.
All right. So here's the case for drafting Ace. You shut down everybody and just let him jack 100,000 shots and
Try to
improve
MCW
your
him.
lottery odds and draft Cam Boozer next year.
Then what do you do with him after that?
I don't know.
All right.
But
Just-
give me Cam Boozer in next year's draft, baby. He's going to be really good.
I want to watch more of him. I haven't seen a lot of him yet.
Listen, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not in the high school weeds like that. I mean, I read about people I've talked to are like, he's the guy.
He's the better Boozer brother. See him at Duke next year. All right. Pump again with can Edgecombe improve on his height? That's what I'm worried about.
Oh, his height's fine.
6'5"?
So like
Is he
his
6'5"?
height's 6'5" without shoes, right?
If we're calling Ace 6'9" in shoes, VJ 6'5" and a half.
Yeah, with a 6'7" and a half wingspan. He's
6'6".
functionally Derek White size, like almost exact same measurement wise. Now, do I have a little concern of him defending like a 3?
Yes.
Yeah, but like as a guard, he is not undersized for a guard. He actually had a good combine measurement.
This is a good example of what we have talked about
6'4" without shoes.
with
So 6'5" and a half width.
Yeah.
Yeah. What we've talked about with if it's your prospect, everything's on the table. If it's not your prospect, can't do anything.
Yeah.
Right. Like Ace Bailey, well, he could grow another 2 inches. Well, yeah, so could VJ. Like
They're both 18
they're like
years
a
old.
year apart.
Right. Yeah, 19.
Anyway.
Yeah. And then the other one.
But yes, it's a concern. If VJ was 6'7", to me, this wouldn't even be a conversation. But that's why this whole thing is a snapshot into what you value in the draft.
and then the comparison
People
to
are acting like he's
former
Ish Smith
Sixers.
though. Like he's 6'5" and a half with 6'7".
I will also bring up again, the people who keep calling him Zaire Smith,
Yeah.
they are not remotely close as players or prospects. And I'll say it for the 100th time. VJ Edgecombe was a top 5 recruit who played for a top 10 team in the country in high school, who then went as an 18-year-old and dominated in Olympic qualifiers and had a good college season in a major conference on both ends of the floor. Zaire Smith played for a no-name high school team, was an unranked prospect who was a college power forward who attempted fewer threes than VJ Edgecombe made. They are not close as players.
Wasn't that Pump who compared him the other day?
It's not just him. There are because
it's a ton of them.
There's a lot of people who are just like guard who played at a Texas school who's an athlete.
Can't
That's
shoot.
Zaire Smith.
Yeah, right. Meanwhile, Eastern Conference Finals, man.
Both fine. Like
Starting Wednesday.
Alex Caruso just controlled a game 7. He's a 6'5" guy who guarded a center.
I'm just talking about the swap at 10 and 17 that year. Yeah.
Cason Wallace just was incredible yesterday.
Yes, he was.
And these people, I tweeted about this. I was just causing trouble yesterday. I was like, oh,
Not you.
looks like,
That's not in your
looks like the
personality at all.
multi-positional guards are having a better day than the shot makers sort of tweet. And we're like, Lou Dort, undrafted. Alex Caruso, undrafted. Alex Caruso got traded for a high lottery pick. Cason Wallace, top 10 pick. You do need to use resources on players who play both ends of the floor.
Yep. All right, Pump with the last one. Super chat. And if we're going to criticize this Aces port shot selection, sir, I've watched 11 years of that by a guy wearing number 21. I'm used to that, so this doesn't faze
That's
me.
not even in the same stratosphere.
Yeah, we're talking about a Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer who makes the shots, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing here.
Reading Super Chat.
This pre-draft process is
gonna
going to
break
drive.
us.
Actually, you know
We got a
what?
whole
I want to
month.
get mad about something else, Bree. Why don't you pull up the mailbag question we got about Jared's nail polish so I can really unload on some people today?
Oh, the fact that he's starting his own line? Good for him.
We got a mailbag question that was like, if you guys if you guys had to pick one of his nail polish colors, which one would it be? I don't even know what the colors. It was like blue, pink,
Red.
probably white, gray. But they all have like basketball names, right? It was like point guard pink or whatever. I don't think any of us are I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say none of us are nail polish guys.
I do go to the nailery with my daughters.
Nothing wrong with a little mani-pedi.
So sometimes they'll put the clear nail polish on. Yeah. I do that.
Okay,
Not
so
the pedicure. That's fine.
Pedicure.
the colors are bucket blue, goat gold, net neutral, point guard pink, and rookie red.
I like the sound of
looked it up. I
bucket
don't know.
blue.
So
the
we
best.
have to choose the color.
I'm picking bucket blue.
What red, white, gold.
You know what? I'm just wearing pink just to piss people off. If you're the type that gets upset over a man wearing nail polish, and I want to piss you off.
That's why I wanted to bring this up, right? I saw a tweet over the weekend from, I don't remember what this bozo's name is, some Clippers guy who was like, this is how soft the NBA is today.
I saw that.
This guy's focused on nail polish instead of basketball. It's like, one, you probably couldn't pick a worse example of like, Jared McCain has one of the best work ethics or like character reviews, weight room, off the court, in the gym. So he like very clearly is not de-emphasizing basketball.
Yeah.
The natural follow-up I always have when this topic comes up, why do you care what another man does with his nails? Like, what impact does that have on your life? Zero. Who cares?
Yep.
So I'm
Go get your money, Jared McCain.
I'm looking at. Yeah, I mean, he got an opportunity to do. All right, cool. He likes it. By the way, he's not the only one.
Diversify your portfolio.
He's not the only one in the NBA who wears nail polish either. He's not the only one on the Sixers team that wears nail polish. By the way, all you people who love Kelly
Tsunami
Oubre,
Poppy.
Kelly Oubre wears nail polish also. You said the pink to piss people off. You said the gold. I'll go with the...
No, I said blue. I'm
Blue.
bucket blue.
I'll just go with the white or neutral, whatever that one is. I'll go with that one. Yeah. I'll go with that one. Bree, what do you think? You like the nail
Pink
polish
for
colors?
sure. Yeah, I'll go pink.
Yeah, cool with the colors.
I've never understood being so insecure about your manhood that you're like,
It
boy,
really
boy,
is
this
a lot
other
of
guy's
insecurity.
wearing nail polish.
It's a lot of
Society has
insecurity.
fallen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, who fucking cares?
Yes.
We're in overtime. I can say
Yeah,
that
you
now.
can say that. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Just
I can't remember.
total loser behavior.
I can't remember what the other one is because sometimes if they don't put the clear on my nails, my daughter says it's another one. It's like a coating or something.
I'm just waiting.
What
'cause
is it,
that's
Bree? It's like a coating that is still clear, but it's like a coating of it
Yeah,
or
like the
something.
clear coat, like the top coat.
Yeah, it's not even the. Yeah, right.
I'm just waiting because, right now when you're a rookie, like nobody has any real expectations. At some point, Jared McCain's going to have expectations. He's going to disappoint because everyone at some point disappoints. And someone in this market, this media market, is going to bring up the nail polish and we're going to lose our minds.
brother.
Absolutely lose our minds.
Well, the clubhouse favorite on that, probably not around to talk about
I don't
it
know. There's a
anymore.
real chance that I'm joining you on that one.
And by the way, people would be surprised how many NBA or professional athletes get their feet and their nails done.
Yeah.
In general.
Take care of your body. It's
it.
all part of the, come
Yeah.
on, man.
Yeah. All right.
Darkness said Joel can wear pantyhose if they keep him healthy. Here's the thing,
Okay.
man. I don't care what these guys, as long as you're not being a harmful contributor to society or a bad person, I don't care what you do. Stay out of trouble, be a good person, give back to the community, go hoop, end of story.
Yep. He's a good kid. All right. Yep. There you go. All right. We got a final. We'll talk about some conference finals a little bit tomorrow. That's set. Western Conference Finals is set after the Game 7. It wasn't even close, really, yesterday between the Thunder and the Nuggets.
Tough day for my frenemies in Denver yesterday. Tough.
I mean, look, and I know exactly what you're referring to. We don't have to get into details of all of it. They overachieved what I thought. I didn't think they would take OKC. To
Oh,
7
and
games.
by the way, Aaron Gordon, that was a
Brutal.
absolutely
Just
just
having an
heroic
incredible
effort
run,
in
too.
that
Yep.
game from him.
Yep.
So we can make fun of, face planting and the fans or whatever.
Right.
But like, I have a lot of respect for.
I didn't want him out there after we saw OG Anunoby a year ago.
I was worried that was his fate
That's
going
what I
into
didn't
that
want him
game.
out
I was
there
like, he's
for.
going to sprint one time and then he gets double-digit rebounds. Like,
Yeah.
he was more up for that game than healthy guys on that team.
And then they got him out of there quickly, and it was like, all right, cool, good, get him out the game, So we'll talk about that. That starts tomorrow, Minnesota and OKC, and then the Eastern Conference Finals is set for Wednesday. That is in New York, where the Knicks will host the Pacers for a chance to advance to the NBA Finals. So we'll have all that tomorrow at some point during the show. We'll get into that. Just to preview the Final Four for the conference finals and see who we think will be representing their conferences in the NBA Finals. All right, that'll do it for us here. We'll be back tomorrow as always at 3. Let's get to the world famous roll call to start this week off.
Yes,
a lot of people in there
sir.
today.
A lot of people sounding off.
We thank
got-
everybody for all the ones all the videos that they've watched and liked and
Of course.
all that, man. It's good stuff.
People having a
Busy month.
fun time now that they actually have the pick and
Yes, they
people
do.
can celebrate a little bit of optimism. We did have, I believe it was Jeffrey Stewart popped in and said he's an audio only listener who said, I want to be in the roll call. So
Jeff.
the shameless, we'll listen to audio later, but just dropping in to say hi and get on the roll call. If Kyle writes names down and doesn't rely on scrolling back, well, I do, but I did happen to see that comment. Thank you, Jeffrey. For
What up,
popping
Jeff?
in. If you are an audio listener, do you ever want to get on the roll call and have a shameless appeal to authority? That's how you do it right there. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you also to Doug Craig, to Joaquin from Cherry Hill.
What up, Joaquin?
Jay the Jungle, who gets his name restored on today's pod after.
Although he just said, let's go Pacers.
Well,
Stop it.
that's between you
Stop
and him.
it, Jay.
I'm not supporting any further New York victories after the way they acted about winning that second round series.
Well, you said you were rooting for one guy, so I'll take that. That's
yeah,
enough.
like I said, I root for the Meteor aside from
This is true. It was
Mikhail escaping
It was real easy to root for Devon when the other team was Boston. I don't know if I have quite as much venom for Pacers. I'll think
You don't
about it.
have to
I'll
have
let you know
venom.
before
You
game
don't have
one.
to have
I'll let you
venom.
know.
We just need a ring. Add to the resume, man.
Yeah,
Thank you to Hedva, to Martian
Looking
Lynch,
Hall
to
of Fame
Provolone
soon.
John, to
Unfortunately, New York gets that
Bootzilla,
ring too, and I don't know if I'm about that.
Aaron, Kyle Wright, Habib.
What up, Aaron?
We had Ronald, Riaz,
Riaz.
Kobe Cobes,
Good show,
Kilo
Kobe.
Dope, who said, y'all act like Ace can't dribble at all. Well, if he could dribble better, he might have gotten to the rim more, but that's a discussion
It's a
we've had
pretty
100
big
times.
weakness. It's a
Phi Chi, Duck Holiday,
Phi Chi.
INS.
What up?
Darkness!
Turn the lights down for the Denver
Charlie
Nuggets
Murphy.
and the Boston Celtics.
Jamie.
Turn
Who
the
else
lights
is in
off.
here today? Smart Guy, Mary Overfield, Wawa Marvel,
by the way.
Thank you.
my girl Winona,
Hey, Mary. Hey,
Jess,
Nona. Purple Heart.
Eugene Ross.
What up, Gene?
The letter N. And by the way, big news of the day, Sesame Street now on Netflix.
Love it.
So they will be streaming old
You're
episodes
not-
and producing new ones.
Not getting rid of Sesame Street.
Cannot allow
Bring
Sesame
more.
Street to die. So
More kids.
good
Gotta show 'em
job. Good job,
Sesame
Netflix. Good job, Sesame Street, getting the Netflix bag.
Yes.
Al Mack
What up, Al?
in the building.
The other Al. What up, Al?
Agavini, JT.
JT, what up?
Who else is in here? Did I say SB Cole? Obviously, B Pump with a bunch of super chats
What up,
today.
Pump?
Philly Sheriff, Lamar Williams.
Call the cops.
Better call B-Ball Paul. Now there is a
That's a
name.
good one.
That
It's right
is
up
a
there with
name
Luka
right
Doncic.
there.
There you go.
Oh, free promo for Austin Krell. Jesse Bond.
Like him. He's a good guy.
Pawn 2 King CMD.
That's a lot.
Hmm.
What up, Pawn?
Who says just because you have a podcast microphone doesn't mean you can evaluate players. Well, then you could apply that to all the players who have podcast microphones. So don't
said
know if
that?
that's directed at us. Don't know if it's directed at Gilbert Arenas.
We don't
know if it's
cool.
can't make any assumptions. Will, just Will.
What up, Will?
Hello to Will. Hello to everybody who was here today. Thank you guys very much for checking in with us as Derek officially breaks our in-studio
Hurry up.
bell. That doesn't mean
Twist
you
that
shouldn't
back
hit the
in.
subscribe button or hit the bell icon so you get notifications
dropped
each
it.
and every time we go live.
It's on.
Please
Forge.
hit the thumbs up button no matter which
Bree,
prospect you're
help us
rooting
out here.
for,
You
no
got a
matter
ding?
whether you want to trade for KD, Lauri Markkanen, or nobody at all. But hit that thumbs up especially because you want to say thank you to super producer Bree as the other two break our studio over there. Thank you, Bree, and thank you all of you for being here. We will be back tomorrow, 3 p.m., as we are every day, Monday through Friday, to talk about maybe a bell or God knows what. But hopefully you'll be here. We will. Until then, take care. See you later.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.